Another podcast here from the Michigan Institute of Athletics. This is one I'm super excited about, part of the Scorpion series. I'm here with Taylor Moore, an OG of the fight game. If you don't know Taylor Moore in the state of Michigan, you must be living under a rock if you follow mixed martial arts at all. The gentleman was a 16-1 amateur competitor. He is a 14-fight professional fighter holding a 10-4 pro record. He's had offers with leagues like Bellator and several big offers around the country. He's coming off of surgery, getting back into the game. For the people that don't know you, Taylor, tell a little bit about your background, like who you are, what sports you grew up playing, and like what gives you that natural fire to be a fighter.
I'm 26 years old. I started wrestling when I was 9 or 10 years old. Fell in love with it. I didn't stop. I remember every Saturday going to tournaments with my dad religiously. We didn't miss any of them. And I just love the competition. I liked competing in like a physical sport. I tried football. I played baseball for a while, but none of them compared to wrestling. And wrestled all throughout high school, and I still wanted to compete in something after I graduated. And one of my buddies, Zach Palmer, introduced me to Scorpion Fighting System and James, and got into jiu-jitsu and training MMA and just fell in love with it ever since.
So that's a big jump. I mean, going from wrestling, it's an extremely physical sport. It's one of the best sports to build people for combat. But when you were first making the transition into being a fighter, did you picture that we'd be sitting here today, you'd be this super successful professional fighter on the verge of achieving his dreams and fighting in the top leagues? Or were you just kind of going into it to feel the water, maybe fight here and there? Talk a little bit about when you made that transition. What was it like?
I was just kind of getting into it, testing the waters a little bit, but I knew after about like 6 months to a year that I was going to try and do something with it. And I think getting past that first amateur fight when I was 18 years old, I remember being backstage shaking, like, I can't do it. And after getting that win, it just lit a fire under me, and I just wanted to keep competing.
Man, I remember that fight really in vivid detail because I remember you being backstage. You're such a young kid at the time. You're 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
You're 18 years old. You're fighting this older gentleman that, he had a lot of years on you. Yeah. And you were basically shaking backstage like, man, like, am I built for this? Am I capable of doing this? Mm-hmm. And then you smashed that guy. I don't remember if you finished TKO or sub.
Second round rear naked.
Second round rear naked choke, and yeah, man, you blew up in there after. I could see like the emotion on your face. I'm like, man, this guy's gonna want to fight. He just got hooked.
And instantly, I was like, give me another fight. And I think all throughout my amateur career, I was taking like 4 or 5 fights a year. So
yeah, I remember you were incredibly active. Super active. So now let's talk a little bit about last year, man. You've had some ups and downs lately. You took an injury. You were not competing or training at 100%. This is something that a lot of people don't know, but like your fight with Josh Robinson, you were probably 50% of your normal capability. We could have backed out of that fight, but it's just not who you are. Yeah. So you had injuries. You're trying to get yourself back on track. You've only lost to really the guys that are at the pinnacle. I mean, you fought Johnny Bedford on like
2 weeks.
On a 2-week notice.
Something like that.
As I think a 2-fight professional. Or did you have 3 fights?
2-0.
You were 2-0, and you took on a UFC veteran who is a monster. Shout out to Johnny Bedford. I mean, he's an absolute monster. He's a black belt. He's a college wrestler.
He's killing it in bare knuckle right
now. He's smashing people in bare knuckle. You took that on an incredibly short notice, and you went to the 4th round. Yeah. So it showed. I mean, you really are something special. I remember when you called me up for that fight. I was out of town somewhere with one of the fighters, and my phone rang, and I'm like, Taylor Moore, and you're like, James, let me take this fight. And I'm like,
no.
I'm like, no, are you nuts, man? You're not going to fight a UFC veteran on 2 weeks. You're a 2-0 pro.
Yeah.
And yeah, you talked me into it. And honestly, no disrespect for Johnny, but like, it was way closer than he thought it was going to be.
Oh, you could
see it in his face. Yeah. You could see in the face when you weren't backing down, when you were still coming after him. As those rounds started to get later, there was a little like, why won't this kid get out of here?
I feel like I perform better in fights than I'm supposed to lose. I don't know why. I just feel like I always have something to prove. Like with the Hernandez fight, I wanted to prove that I could strike with him. I don't know, with the Poncho thing, I wanted to prove that I could take him down and beat him up.
I think that's the competitive nature that you naturally carry. If someone tells you can't do something, you're going to exclusively try to prove that to them. If someone tells you you can't bang with me, you're like, not only am I going to, I'm not going to take you down. I'm going to stand in front and light you up.
Yeah, just like today. I mean, I know Dante is a better striker than me, but I texted him. I was like, you want to get some rounds in today, bud?
No, I love it.
So
It's that competitive drive that you have. So looking forward, I mean, we've had a wild year. How has it affected you personally? What about your work? Like, were you one of the people that was unemployed for a period of time? You know, because when I look at you at the gym, you're in phenomenal shape still. You're in fantastic condition right now, and you're not far from fight weight. So that almost tells me you maintained a routine. What has your life been like through this pandemic?
I've kind of tried to keep it as normal as possible. Work, we were only off for like 2 weeks. And I mean, even during the 2 weeks, we were going in like twice a week. So, I mean, work stayed pretty busy throughout the whole entire thing. And even when SFS closed, I was still doing a lot of circuits on my own and trying to keep my eating down, to keep my weight down. And I feel like not lifting weights so much in the gym helped me kind of stay thinner. And then as soon as I got back to training, I got all my, all my timing and my cardio and everything back. But I think just doing a lot of circuits and staying active and working even throughout all that just helped me kind of not get into a rut. And, yeah.
So what do you do for work? Is it a really physical job? Because, I mean, that would play an advantage to you. If you had a job where you're sitting at a desk 8, 9, 10 hours a day, that's incredibly difficult to do being a fighter. But what do you do for work, and has that been, helpful that you're almost like forced to get exercise?
Yeah, we do a lot of driving, but we also do a lot of loading the van, unloading the van. So, I mean, we're lifting stuff, all day. So, I mean, I get a workout before I even come to practice, so.
And that's one thing about you that has kind of always shined is you have unbelievable cardio. And I think that comes from what you do outside of the academy. I think it's the fact that you're always active. I've lifted with you before at a gym. You just go, 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 go. Yeah. And it translates to your fights. You can set a pace on people that they don't want to keep. And that's a massive asset in fighting. You know what I mean? Let's talk for a second about the UFC card that just took place, because you were super excited to see Jose Aldo back in. And, it was the fight between Usman and Masvidal where he was carrying the hype of the world. Did the card go the way that you expected? And just anything you want to talk about on the card before we go to your career.
I did not do well on my picks. I definitely thought Aldo would have beat Jan, which Aldo looked really good. I'm surprised that he can make that cut and still perform like that, because I couldn't imagine being a 35er going down to 25 and being able to do as many rounds as he did. And but he looked really good. I just think he needed to make a few adjustments to that one. The Usman Masvidal fight was, to me, really lame. I mean, everybody knows
some footsteps.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows me. I love, getting the takedown, ground and pound, and all that. But to me, he didn't look like he was trying to finish the fight at all. He just looked like he was trying to outpoint him. And I feel like with him taking that on 6 days' notice, he shouldn't have had to do that. And then I feel like Max won the co-main event against Volkanovski. I feel like there should be a third one.
Yeah, that fight was incredibly close. And I had Max winning that fight too. I feel like he got robbed. And I hate saying that. And I know a lot of people are going to say the old adage of like, well, when you fight the champ, you really got to beat the champ. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It should be fair judging. It should be if you win a fight, you win a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he necessarily dominated Max in the first one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That first fight was close.
Him, but I mean, if you're going to say he's got to beat the champ to take the belt, then he technically shouldn't even have gotten in the first one.
Phenomenal point. For as little as Volkanovski edged out the first fight is probably about the same as what Max just did in this last fight. That's a really good point that you made. It was a card that I was so hyped for. I was so excited. And then some of the fights were pretty anticlimactic, but it was great seeing Jose Aldo back in old-fashioned form. He was kicking again. Yeah. Right when he came out kicking, I went, uh-oh, this could be a tough night. 100%.
Did you see that Woodley and Covington are fighting now? I just saw that fight poster.
No, I didn't. Tyron versus Colby. That's an interesting fight because Colby put up a good fight with Usman. I mean, he's got a high pace. He puts out a lot of volume with his strikes. He's a good wrestler.
I feel like that one will be an easy one for Colby, honestly. Because, I mean, Usman just pushed a super heavy pace on Tyron and just wore him out. And I feel like Colby and Usman are identical, and that's why their first fight was how it was.
What an incredible fight it was.
Going to take each other down. So,
yeah, no, that's going to be a good fight though. That's a fight I'll tune into because I mean, even with all of his antics and all of his, the Colby thing, whether you enjoy it or whether you hate it, it gets you to tune in, and he does show up to fight.
Even the card tonight. there's a card tonight. Brandon Ige versus Calvin Kattar or whatever.
Yeah, Calvin Kattar. He is a savage.
That'll be a good fight.
That's going to be a good fight. I'm excited about that.
Me too.
So let's shift to your pro career, man. You're sitting at 10-4 as a pro. You're not far from the big leagues. You've witnessed a bunch of people around you. I can't name one of them.
Yeah.
But two of the other, Cody Brundage got signed to UFC Contender. Parisian got signed to UFC Contender. We can't name the other one, but people are going to find out very soon. Someone very close to your size. You know what I mean? Like, knowing that you grew up in the same environment as them, you've trained, is that getting you fired up for what's to come? And like, how eager are you to get back in the cage? Because we keep hearing about these shows that are, about to start. I keep sending your name everywhere, but we're just all in this state of waiting. Talk a little bit about what's next for you.
I'm really eager to get back in there. I've been watching a lot of fights, and I haven't missed a UFC card in years, and I feel like every card I see people my weight that I'm like, I belong in there. I don't know why I'm not in there yet. Like the last card, they got 5-2 guys in there, 8-4 and stuff like that. That Tyson Nam guy that I was supposed to fight
in Hawaii,
he's fought for him twice, and he's coming off a big knockout. And the guy from China was supposed to fight for them, and his fight fell through. There's just a lot of guys that I've competed against or was supposed to compete against that are in there. So I feel like I'm maybe just one big fight away.
I agree 100%. And you're really hitting your stride now. I mean, you're 26 years old. You're not even at your athletic prime yet. You're getting stronger with age. You're getting smarter with age. You're so well-rounded now. Like probably about 8 or 9 months ago, your jiu-jitsu made a serious leap. Like, I started watching you roll, and I was going like, oh my. You started hitting passes you've never hit before. You started being a serious problem off your back, which you've always had some attacks that were good. But, we just had another pro fighter from a gym. I'm not going to name him. I don't want to embarrass it. But he was in the other night, and you two were rolling, and you were snatching him up, catching his neck, subbing him, finishing him. He's actually a guy that's got a win over one of our pros.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I'm watching you, I'm going, wow, you're really starting to hit your stride now. Like, everything is kind of coming together.
It's just rolling more. I feel like to me, I don't like drilling's good, but I progress more off doing stuff live, like live rolling, because then I can try it in a live, because I can hit stuff drilling all day long, but when I try it live, I can't hit it. So I learned by like doing it in live situations and stuff like that. So I feel like just being on the mat and rolling more, I'm able to try new things and drill them in like a live scenario, and it's helping me out more.
How would you describe yourself as a fighter? Because when I look at you, you're incredibly well-rounded. You're somebody that I like to corner people like you because you're very good on the feet. You're a very good wrestler. You have great wall work. You have good ground and pound. You have good jiu-jitsu. So I don't need to be concerned about one thing. Like certain fighters, when you corner them, you're like, man, I hope we don't end up in this situation. Yeah. You are so well-rounded. How do you view yourself as a fighter? And like, if you were going to describe your fighting style to other people, what is it about Taylor Moore that, is a threat to other fighters?
I feel like my style's a lot like Covington's, honestly. I feel like I try and push like a heavy pace, throw on the feet, get him overcommit, take to the ground, and just keep a super relentless pace. I don't know. I've kind of evolved my style over the years. I feel like just the way I train and like the way I spar and all that trains me perfectly for the way I fight. I'm still trying to work on a few things like getting more comfortable on the feet, kind of bringing how I train in here directly into the cage and stuff like that. Just a few small things like that. But I feel like every camp that I get a lot of sparring in and a lot of rolling, those are my best performances for sure.
100%. Even in your losses, like you had decision losses to, let's say, Derek Mandel or Mike Hernandez. If you went and watched the striking in those fights, you were absolutely, dominating the striking, and it was actually your wrestling that, because I think you weren't focused on it all, you were like, both of those guys were saying they were going to light you up on the feet and piece you up. So what did you do? You went out with that little bit of stubbornness and said, I'm going to smash you on the feet. Yeah. And then it was actually getting away from your wrestling, because you grew up wrestling. Wrestling's your background. The early Taylor Moore didn't throw strikes. You would feint strikes, and you would double leg people, take them down, and beat them up. And, and then you evolved to this, like, you say you're going to knock me out, I'm going to put you to sleep. You know what I mean? So it's been cool to watch that evolution in you, because now you really get to look back and reflect like, okay, I've developed skills in every single area. What do I want to use to be successful? Or what's the right answer in this fight to get the victory? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think one thing that a lot of people can appreciate about you, why you have a huge fan base here in Michigan, is you're an exciting fighter. you go to fight.
Yeah.
You're not out there fighting not to lose or trying to decision people out. You're trying to smash people from the opening bell to the final bell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something that I feel like the UFC and those leagues that we're trying to get to, that's what they want in fighters.
I also feel like another thing they look for is people that aren't scared to take a fight on a few weeks. Like, I don't think there's enough guys in the UFC that stay ready. That way, they get a fight on a month or 2 or 3 weeks notice, they can't take it. And I feel like I've always like rise to those occasions and kind of stayed in shape. That way I only needed a couple week adjustment,
I can give 2 perfect examples. The Bellator offer that came in against the undefeated Askar.
Yeah.
He was like 9-0. We got it on a notice, and you were like, of course, let's go and fight him. And then he missed weight, and then we didn't get to do the fight. And then you got the Hawaii offer for Tyson Nam, the guy that's now in the UFC. What did you say? Run it. Let's do it. Let's take the fight. So it's like you are the guy that is just down to fight all the time. And UFC matchmakers drool over that.
Yeah, and I'm 26 now. I feel like I could have a solid 10 more years in me, and I just want to I want to have as much time at that top level as possible. So I'm trying to do whatever I can to get there, get my foot in the door, and then, show everybody why I'm ready to be there.
So you actually told me right before we started this podcast that you're sparring today with Dante at 5 o'clock. Dante just moved back in town, so he was down with Upstate Karate training with Stephen Thompson and a bunch of UFC fighters. And he told me it really like clicked something in his brain because he goes, I was training with these UFC guys every day, holding my own with them and going, wait a second. I am on the level of these guys. And it was like a wake up to him because it was almost before he looked at those people as, all right, they're so out of my league that, I got to work to get there. And then he went down there and he's blown away going, I can compete with them. You've experienced that because you've fought former UFC veterans.
Yeah.
We've had UFC guys come in here and you've sparred with them and trained with them. But now having a gentleman like Dante that he's very close, even though he's only 4-1 as a pro, he bangs out 2 wins. He's 6-1 as a pro. He has a 100% finish rate. You two are both right on the cusp of making it. Having him back in town and just your other training partners, talk a little bit about, what that's like knowing that you've fought UFC fighters, you've trained with UFC fighters, you've got other people right around you that are very close to success. What kind of confidence does that give you moving forward?
Well, like I said, I feel like I see people on UFC all the time and I'm like, I know that I could beat that guy. Or like even watching like the Peter Yan Aldo fight, I'm like, okay, but I still don't feel like Peter Yan could finish me. Like I still don't think that he could finish me. And that's one thing about me that I feel like is hard is because like I don't quit no matter what, and I feel like that's a hard attribute. Like even when I'm getting tired, I tell myself I'm not tired, and like I've trained, like remember when I went out to Alpha Male and stuff like that, like I kind of did the same thing. I was like, oh wow, I'm getting ready to train with these guys, and I went with all of them. They're all good, but I was like, wow, I expected like a lot more. I just thought they were like so much better than what I really thought. But I mean, they're all good obviously, but I feel like you underplay yourself a little bit. And but yeah, I mean, I like getting a good look at different teams and kind of seeing where I'm at and stuff like that. And I feel like that's one good way to like get confidence in yourself, because you do kind of open your eyes a little bit. Like I'm right there. I feel like I just need the exposure a little more, and I'm there.
So ideally, leagues open back up. How quickly do you get back in the cage? Are you looking to fight here in Michigan? Are you looking to travel? Does it not matter? Like, what's next in that way? As soon as a league starts, are we booking you and you're getting back in the ring? Can your fans expect to see you fighting again soon?
Yeah, I'm about to the point where I'll take basically, whether it's in-state, out-of-state, out of the country, I don't really care. I just want a big fight. I want to get another win and move on to the next step. If there's not allowed to be a crowd or anything like that, I'd probably prefer it to be out of state, since I wouldn't be able to bring anybody anyways. But I also would kind of want to lean towards an out-of-state fight anyway to kind of get the experience of traveling a little more. Like, the Bellator fight didn't go through, but we at least still got to go to Chicago, be in enemy territory. Remember we went to Wisconsin for the one fight. The guy got put in jail.
You've had a crazy run, man.
Yeah.
And you went to the desert of China to fight somebody. I mean, you've had a crazy run.
Yeah, I mean, the venue or where it's at, none of that really matters. I just want to get a fight and, get another win, move on.
So you've had some huge changes in your personal life over like the last 5 years. You have a beautiful home. You've got a great girlfriend. You know, talk a little bit about what it's been like to have somebody that's like super supportive of you. Because like when I watch your guys' relationship, when I see the support that she sends your way towards your fighting career, that's something I feel like a lot of fighters may not experience. And I feel like it's almost a major an ingredient for success is having someone that respects your vision and what you have to do to dedicate to that. Because at the end of the day, if you're constantly having this stress of like, why are you going to train again? Why are you doing this? It's a difficult road in the first place. But talk a little bit about what it's like having someone that, you know, backs you so much and believes in you, you know, just your personal life in general.
She's great. One thing I can say about her is that she works like 40, 50 hours a week at her vet job. And then, but every time I get home from practice, dinner's done, the house is clean. Like she gets home from work and she's either doing homework or she's cleaning the house. She's grooming the dogs, making dinner. Like every day I get home from work, she's got dinner made, practice, everything. And, she understands though because she did MMA for a little while and she knows how much work it takes. And you know, if she gets on me about staying late, I just tell her like, you want me to win, don't you? And I'm like, I'd rather, you know, you be a little mad at me for being late from practice than get beat up in front of you. So she understands, but I mean, I couldn't really ask for anybody more supportive. She understands everything and helps me out any way that I could ask, and that's all I could ask for.
Man, that's really awesome. Taylor Lloyd, you just got a major shout out. He just said what an awesome woman you are on this podcast. And I mean, really, I mean, think about it. You could be out at the bar. You could be out just messing around with your friends. There's a million things you'd be doing. You're chasing a dream.
That's one thing, though, is like I hang out with a small group of friends, and I mean, they all have their shit together. You know, they all know what I'm trying to do. They all support me a lot. And like every time I'm with them, they're asking me about my training when I'm getting a fight coming up. So, I mean, they're all in the same boat. They all support me a lot. My family's great. You know, my family. Yeah. I couldn't ask for a better support group. So
now we've recently brought in an athletic development coach, Chris Down. Yeah. He's working with Olympic level athletes, professional athletes in baseball. He's getting huge into the fighting side. He's like fascinated by it. Every day the guy's lighting up because he wants to learn more about the fight game. He wants to really be involved with the fight team. What has it been like now having, you know, the athletic trainer come into the building? Because before you always did your own routines. Yeah. You went to gyms. You had to supplement that side of your training in other spots. Although you'd get, you know, good workout in boxing and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. You need the like full piece of the puzzle. What has it been like being able to work with Chris Down and having him here in the building?
I've known Chris for a long time. I joined Anytime Fitness in 2011. I want to say right after I joined Scorpion Fighting System, I started lifting weights too. Like I just started the whole package. But I met him and he was a personal trainer there. So I've known Chris since like right out of high school. He was a personal trainer and I'd get tips from him here and there. And then we never could really like make our schedules match, but now he's here. And I mean, he's here when I walk into practice and he'll get a hold of me ahead of time. We'll get a good workout in. The main thing I've been working with him is like loosening my hips, just stretching more and more mobility and explosiveness. I think like the strength conditioning part, I mean, I do myself pretty much, but like all the flexibility, explosiveness, like that's his thing. He knows it. So
that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about your family because you have one of the most supportive families of any fighter in this building, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, when Taylor Moore fights, there is a mob. The Moore family comes in a mob. You guys roll deep, and they're just so unbelievably supportive. They all have Taylor Moore shirts on. They're the loudest people in the crowd. They got tears rolling down their face when you win the fight. Yeah. You know, has your family just always been there for you like that since you were a little kid wrestling, or did they really just champion this, you know, like this MMA career with you know, our family member chasing his dream is just so unbelievable? Like, have they always been that way? I mean, because it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, even when I was younger and I was playing baseball, like my parents would always be at my games. They didn't miss any of my games. My wrestling tournaments, for the most part, it was just me and my dad. My mom would come here and there, but for the most part, it was just me and my dad because, I mean, we'd get up at 6 in the morning and we'd be gone until 6 at night. So, but, yeah, I think they just see how much the MMA means to me, and they know how much I put into it. Like, even like, if I'm not here, like, everything really, like, has to do with it, pretty much. Everything I do is, like, is that going to help me, you know, in that area? Like, they just support everything I do. So
No, it's awesome, man. Like I said, major shout out to the Moore family. If you guys listen to this, as a coach, it's incredible to see because I know families that are not very supportive of people chasing their dreams. And then that's a whole added stress that the athlete has to carry. And it's like creating something in the back of your mind at all times. You're almost doubting, like, am I making the right path? My family tells me that I'm wasting my time. And it's like, man, the sport is hard enough.
Yeah, they've never tried to lead me down that path at all. They basically just told me, like, what makes me happy, just do it. I'm staying out of trouble, you know. And I don't think it would have mattered what sport. I think they'd support it regardless. But I think at first this one made them a little nervous. And I know I still really get nervous before my fights. But, I mean, I don't get too nervous before my fights. I get more nervous when, like, my friends fight.
That's funny. I was about to ask you coming up about your mindset because you're one of the people that truly is like a fighter to the core. I could tell you right now, hey, this interview's got to get interrupted early. You got 5 rounds of sparring with a pro that just walked in. You would just stand right up, pop your gloves on, and go throw down.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your mindset. Do you not feel the nerves? Because, like, you always seem to be ice cold. When you walk to the ring, you just got that look of determination from opening bell until final bell. I never have to wonder, like, is Taylor Moore going to quit on himself? You just don't. You have not an ounce of quit in you. Talk a little bit about where does that mindset come from? How did you develop that? Was that something that was present since you were just a child, or did you develop that?
I feel like I've just developed it, kind of. Like, I feel like I've just, I mean, any fighter can really say this, but I feel like I've just had, like, a lot of the grueling wrestling practices, the grueling wrestling matches, and all the sparring sessions and whatnot. But I feel like I'm mentally preparing myself before every fight because I feel like I just work, when I'm in the gym, I feel like I just work so hard. Like, I make sure I put everything into the training. And I just know that, like, I'm ready. Like, when I go in the cage, I know I'm ready to go. I know, you know, I'm prepared well for this. And I feel like that just helps with the mental part of it, just knowing that I put in the work for it. And for me, is just doing a lot of live work. I feel like if I didn't do a lot of live work, I might be like, am I going to be timid when he starts throwing at me? And I feel like that's just why I'm making sure I'm here for every sparring day. I get extra sparring in if I can, just because getting the timing down and getting used to people, you know, pressuring me and throwing at me, that's all things that you need to be used to going into the cage, and I don't want it to be a shock. And I feel like that's just how I prepare myself, is what's a better way to get ready for fighting than just fighting in here. Because then when I go in, it's just another sparring match to me.
That makes sense.
That's the best way for me to put it, I guess.
So talk a little bit about your nutrition, or what is it that makes you have just the ridiculous cardio that you do? It's something that I brought up a lot to a lot of fighters. You have an unbelievable ability to just sustain a high pace that most people flat out don't. If they try to match you in pace, they're going to burn out. You're going to see that they're slowing down. You're going to break them in that point, and then you're going to finish them. Do you think that's simply from your work ethic? Are you super strict with your nutrition? How have you created this ability to just have your... There's been some days where I've held pads for you, and I am tired holding the pads, and you're still ripping full force. And it's kind of a fascinating thing to me. You know, talk a little bit about what you think creates that type of just relentlessness that you can set.
I want to say that it's just... I mean, it's not my eating. I don't feel like I don't diet very well. Like, you
don't have some secret in the way that you eat?
No, like, the only time that I diet is like 2.5, 3 weeks out from a fight. Other than that, like, I eat what I want pretty much. Like, because I feel like anytime I diet too much, I feel weak for my training sessions. Because I feel like I burn so many calories at work, and then I come in here and I'm depleted already. So I basically eat what I want. I mean, I don't go eat fast food 3 times a day, but I basically eat what I want because I know I'm going to burn it off. And any time that I'm, you know, watching when I eat too much, I start losing too much weight, feeling weak and stuff like that. So, I mean, I know I'm going to burn it off, so I don't really stress too much on what I eat. But for my cardio, I don't know. I just feel like every time I train, I just push my cardio. Like, anytime I'm sparring, like you saw the other night when we're sparring, I'm just constantly trying to pressure, get as many rounds in as possible just to condition my body for that, condition my legs, condition my shoulders, everything. I just feel like it's just repetition rounds. And
the other night it was actually 94 degrees in the building. you were leaving a lake wherever you went.
I know.
But you were still sparring every round. And the funny thing is you were keeping the pace that you would normally fight at in a condition where I would think you would conserve a ton, where you'd be like, oh my God, we're training in a sauna at this point. You know what I mean? And you didn't. It was impressive to watch. And I was literally thinking to myself, like, this is off of quarantine. This is just after a pandemic. Taylor is setting a pace that most people in their best condition can't keep up with. It's been remarkable to watch, man.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think another thing, like as the cardio thing, is experience over time. I feel like you stay calmer. I think being calm and composed will keep your cardio better than like anything. Doing any cardio workout, I feel like just staying calm and composed will keep you, you'll be in way better shape.
If you, looking at all the experience you have, where you're at as a mixed martial artist, could give some advice to the next generation of kids coming up. We've got like the Haydens, the Spencers, the Jackson Rosses, like these young kids that like they have they want to be you one day in that format. They want to be professional fighters that can be successful. And a lot of them have a ton of potential. You've kind of carved out and learned your way as you've gone. If you could give them some advice, if you could go back to the 18-year-old version of yourself and give him advice based on what the 26-year-old that sits before me today knows, what would that be? What would you tell somebody?
Just to stick to it, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and you're going to get your hopes up for a lot of things, and things might not go your way. I mean, it's a sport where you really can't guarantee anything. So what you put in here in the gym is what you're going to get in the cage, and there's not really any worse feeling than getting beat up in front of all your friends and family while you're exhausted and not being able to do anything about it. I'd just say, take the punishment in here, take in everything that all the pros have to say here, and just stick to it. I mean, do your jiu-jitsu classes, do all your cardio workouts, all that, and just make sure for every fight you're tip-top shape. And get enough sparring and make sure you build like your mental toughness over anything, in my opinion.
So really, you would say perseverance is probably the number one trait in this sport.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to be able to. For
me, at least, like I feel like there's definitely been fights where a lot of people could have quit in, or a lot of fights where I was exhausted and I was like, no, I didn't just train 8 weeks to lose this, So it's definitely a mental thing. I feel like, obviously MMA is physical, but I never realized how mental it really is until I got further into my career.
Yeah, that's something I think that is really good insight that you've talked about 3 times now throughout this podcast, where you said you've put in so much work during the training camp and you've pushed yourself so hard and you've sacrificed and you've done those extra rounds and you trained in a 94-degree room where you're dying, that it almost just gives you this spirit of like, I'm not losing this fight. I just worked too hard, period. I did not do all of that to not be successful tonight. That's a great point, and to think about it that way is it's not just like this fairy tale you tell yourself and just say like, well, no matter what happens, I'm going to find a way. You just know what you've done to be where you are. So it gives you the confidence to say, man, no, I'm going to break you before you break me.
And another thing that's helped is just going on like the things that like when we went to Vegas the one time and like seeing behind the scenes of everything and going to live events and knowing like it really is just like any other MMA show. It's just, all the
way better production quality.
Production and all that. And it's like, I know that you get jitters and all that, but I feel like knowing that, and I feel like when the time comes, I'll be ready for that. I feel like that's something I can get past is, the pre-fight jitters, and it's just another fight. And I feel like that's just comes from experience. I
agree 100%. I believe that when it's your time, when you have that more jersey on and you're walking out to the arena, it's going to be just another fight too. It's going to be exciting. You're going to look around and see that crowd and be fired up, hopefully.
I know I'm going to be hyped up.
Yeah, but you know what? When the referee looks at you and the announcer announces you and they announce your opponent, I bet you just click into the mode of like, I just got to beat this guy. This guy across the ring from me is the only thing I got to do to now be a successful UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Let's run it. You know what I mean? So, man, Taylor, I appreciate you sitting down and podcasting with me today. Hopefully you're back in the cage super soon. If people want to follow you, support your career, sponsor you, anything, how do they follow you online? How do they contact you? What would be a good route if they wanted to be like a sponsor for an upcoming fight? Just kind of shout that stuff out so it's recorded on the podcast.
My Facebook is just Taylor Moore, or you could my fighter page is Taylor Moore MMA. My Instagram, you can follow me at Taylor Moore MMA, and my Twitter is Taylor Moore NWA.
NWA. He's an OG of the rap game. If you see some of his walkouts, you got Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, straight out of Compton. That was at TWC. The way you ran to the cage to that song was one of the coolest moments. I have a little bit of goosebumps right now. Remember it. You ran out to the cage, smashed on a guy. It was awesome, man. So it's been an incredible journey. Like you said, almost 10 years together. I mean, if you fought the first time when you were 18, you probably started training around 16, 17.
My first fight was in 2012, and I came here in 2011.
Wow.
So almost 10 years.
So 9 years now.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. So it's been a true honor. I can't wait to see you back in the ring. And hopefully once we can get you a fight booked, because I don't think it's going to be small. I think it's going to be a significant fight. We'll get you back on. We'll talk about the fight a ton. We'll talk about the upcoming opportunity, what it means. And then I tell you what, I don't think it's long before you're walking out under the real bright lights. You know what I mean? The big time. You've just seen a bunch of your teammates make it.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Yep.
So hopefully everybody that tuned in today, you enjoyed this. Please follow Taylor Moore, support his career. He's a local kid from here in Howell, chasing his dreams. He's going to be successful. And, it's been great watching his journey. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.